Narcissism from a Spiritual Perspective, Part 32. If you're new on this channel, welcome. On this page, I talk about the Ascension journey and I try to look at narcissism from a spiritual lens. Narcissism is a term that is being widely used right now, but the concept of narcissism is nothing new under the sun. We like to label things, right? So for the sake of this series, I just use the term narcissism, but I have my thoughts on truly what it is, and I think it's people who are houses for unclean and demonic spirits. And those unclean and demonic spirits gained access to the person either through childhood wounds, through the family's bloodline, or through actions that they have inflicted upon themselves, whether it be drug abuse or alcohol abuse. As I mentioned before, narcissism is nothing new, okay? It's been around. And when you look at it from a spiritual lens, and specifically a biblical lens, a lot of people will say that those people who are considered narcissists are just really influenced by the Leviathan or Jezebel spirit. Whatever the case may be, whatever spirit is operating inside of them ain't the Holy Spirit. And this is why a lot of the behaviors that you could see coming out of a narcissist can be completely anti-Christ. In this video, I want to talk about some examples of characters in the Bible that have demonstrated narcissistic tendencies. Let's take, for example, King Saul, who was the first king of Israel and chosen by God. Initially, in the beginning, he showed promise as a chosen one from God. But as you read his story, eventually homeboy became jealous, insecure, was in constant need of validation. He became erratic and self-centered. He had so much anger and hate towards David. Those narcissistic tendencies is what led ultimately to his downfall. Another example in the Bible is Nebuchadnezzar, right? He made them construct a gold statue and told people that they had to worship this gold statue of him. And when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, probably butchered their names, refused to bow down and worship this golden calf, Nebuchadnezzar was like, y'all gonna go into the fire. The fact that they challenged his authority, it put him into a rage and made him go into that furnace, and they came out unscathed. Another example is the character Haman in the book of Esther. When King Xerxes promoted him to a position of authority, that's when his head blew up. When Mordecai refused to bow down to Haman, that triggered something inside of Haman, and he devised this plan to not only destroy Mordecai, but to destroy his people as well. And there are many other examples in scriptures where people might display certain characteristic traits of narcissists. There are two ways to approach narcissism. You can approach it through a third dimensional perspective. You can study data and science. People go to psychotherapy. And then you can look at narcissism from a spiritual perspective, looking at it from the view of energy and frequency and spirits and demonic spirits. And depending on your level of consciousness will determine how you're going to view the situation of narcissism. All I can say is we have to respect people's choices in how they want to view the topic of narcissism. Personally, when I started looking at it from a spiritual lens, that's what made me understand and heal from the abuse of a narcissist. Looking at it from a spiritual perspective, it made sense to me and it clicked and I understood what was being at play. I decided to encode this phenomenon as a spiritual war, a war between light and darkness. And I totally understand not everybody's going to see it that way. And that's fine. It's not right. It's not wrong. That's the person's choice. Ultimately, whether someone wants to attack narcissism from a third dimensional perspective or from a fifth dimensional perspective, I don't care. All I really care about is that people heal from this demonic spirit. Because the pain, the betrayal, the hurt, the cognitive dissonance, the financial abuse, all of that is really, really heavy on someone who was a victim of narcissistic abuse. But I also know that when you are looking at things from a higher perspective, you can take that situation and you can transform it into your power. You can take the lessons from that experience. You can grow from that experience. You can heal whatever was inside of you that subconsciously allowed you to accept that experience in your life. You can find that strength inside of you so you know you'll never allow somebody to treat you that way. I believe, seriously, that a lot of these people who we call narcissists, I believe that they're being oppressed demonically. I believe that they are just vessels for the darkness. And I believe that there are certain spirits or certain strongholds that people have that no matter how much love, kindness, understanding, compassion that you can give them, their mind doesn't allow them to receive that, because that pain, that trauma is just so deep that what you can offer them is prayers, but you ask God to handle that person. And you put that focus back on yourself. You work on finding the light within yourself. You work on valuing yourself. You work on developing a relationship with the Most High. You make it about you. And you leave the person to God. Recognize that there are some people who don't have the strength to fight those demons inside of them, and you don't have to be collateral damage. You can pray for them, but give them to God and put the focus back on yourself. Let me know what your thoughts are. Stay strong, saints. I'll catch you in the next video.